Apostolic Exhortation. Set la confiance of the Holy Father Francis on confidence in the merciful love of God for the 150th anniversary of the birth of Saint Therese of the Child Jesus and the Holy Face. I will be love. As greater than faith and hope, charity will never pass away. 1 Corinthians 13, 8-13. It is the supreme gift of the Holy Spirit and the mother and the root of all virtues. Charity as a personal attitude of love. The story of a soul is a testimonial to charity, in which Therese offers us a commentary on Jesus' new commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. John 15:12. Jesus thirsts for this response to his love. Indeed, he did not fear to beg for a little water from the Samaritan woman. He was thirsty. But when he said, "Give me to drink," it was the love of his poor creature that the Creator of the universe was seeking. He was thirsty for love. Therese wished to respond to the love of Jesus, to offer him love in return for love. The symbolism of spousal love emphasizes the mutual self-gift of the bridegroom and the bride. Thus inspired by the Song of Songs 2:16, Therese writes, "I think that the heart of my spouse is mine alone, just as mine is his alone. And I speak to him then in the solitude of this delightful heart-to-heart, while waiting to contemplate him one day face to face." Although the Lord loves us together as a people, at the same time charity works in a most personal way, heart to heart. Therese possessed complete certainty that Jesus loved her and knew her personally at the time of his passion. He loved me and gave himself for me. Galatians 2:20. As she contemplated Jesus in his agony, she told him, "You saw me." In the same way, she said to the child Jesus in the arms of his mother, "With your little hand that caressed Mary, you upheld the world and gave it life, and you thought of me." So too, at the beginning of the story of a soul, she contemplated the love of Jesus for all humanity and for each individual, as if he or she were the only one in the world. The act of love, repeating the words, "Jesus, I love you," which became as natural to Therese as breathing, is the key to her understanding of the gospel. With that love, she immersed herself in all the mysteries of the life of Christ, making herself his contemporary and placing herself within the gospel, together with Mary and Joseph, Mary Magdalene, and the apostles. Together with them, she penetrated to the depths of the love of the heart of Jesus. Let us take one example. When I see Magdalene walking up before the many guests, washing with her tears the feet of her adored Master, whom she is touching for the first time, I feel that her heart has understood the abysses of love and mercy of the heart of Jesus. And sinner though she is, this heart of love was not only disposed to pardon her, but to lavish on her the blessings of divine intimacy, to lift her to the highest summits of contemplation. The greatest love in supreme simplicity. At the end of the story of a soul, Therese presents us with her act of oblation to merciful love. Once she surrendered completely to the working of the Spirit, she received, quietly and unobtrusively, an abundant outpouring of living water. Rivers, or better, the oceans of graces that flooded my soul. This is the mystical life that, apart from any extraordinary phenomena, offers itself to all the faithful as a daily experience of love. Therese practiced charity in littleness, in the simplest things of daily life, and she did so in the company of the Virgin Mary, from whom she learned that to love is to give everything. It is to give oneself. While preachers in those days often celebrated Mary's grandeur in ways that made her seem far removed from us, Therese showed, starting with the Gospel, that Mary is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven because she is the least. Matthew 18:4. The one closest to Jesus in his abasement. She saw that if the Apocrypha are full of striking and amazing feats, the Gospels show us a lowly and poor life lived in the simplicity of faith. Jesus himself wanted Mary to be the example of a soul that seeks him with a simple faith. Mary was the first to experience the little way in pure faith and humility. Consequently, Therese did not hesitate to write, "Mother, full of grace, I know that in Nazareth you live in poverty, wanting nothing more. No rapture, miracle, or ecstasy. Embellish your life, O Queen of the elect. The number of little ones on earth is truly great. They can raise their eyes to you without trembling. It is by the ordinary way, incomparable Mother, that you like to walk to guide them to heaven." Therese does tell us of certain moments of grace experienced amid the simplicity of daily life, like the sudden insight she had when accompanying a sick and somewhat irascible sister. Even so, those experiences of a more intense charity came about in the most ordinary ways. One winter night I was carrying out my little duty as usual. It was cold, it was night. Suddenly I heard off in the distance the harmonious sound of a musical instrument. I then pictured a well-lighted drawing room, brightly gilded, filled with elegantly dressed young ladies conversing together and conferring upon each other all sorts of compliments and other worldly remarks. Then my glance fell upon the poor invalid whom I was supporting. Instead of the beautiful strains of music, I heard only her occasional complaints, and instead of the rich gildings, I saw only the bricks of our austere cloister, hardly visible in the glimmering light. I cannot express in words what happened in my soul. What I know is that the Lord illumined it with rays of truth, which so far surpassed the dark brilliance of earthly feasts that I could not believe my happiness. Ah, I would not have exchanged the 10 minutes employed in carrying out my humble office of charity to enjoy 1,000 years of worldly feasts. In the heart of the Church. From Saint Therese of Avila, Therese inherited a great love for the Church and was able to plumb the depths of this mystery. We see this in her discovery of the heart of the Church. In a lengthy prayer to Jesus, written on 8 September 1896, the 6th anniversary of her religious profession, the saint confided to the Lord that she felt driven by an immense desire, a passion for the gospel that no vocation by itself could satisfy. And so, in seeking her place in the Church, she turned to chapters 12 and 13 of the first letter of St. Paul to the Corinthians. There in chapter 12, the apostle employs the metaphor of the body and its members to explain that the Church embraces a great variety of hierarchical ordered charisms. Yet this description was not enough for Therese. She continued her search and read the hymn to Charity in chapter 13. There she came upon the eminent answer to her question and wrote the memorable page. Considering the mystical body of the church, I had not recognized myself in any of the members described by St. Paul, or rather, I desired to see myself in them all. Charity gave me the key to my vocation. I understood that if the church has a body composed of different members, the most necessary and most noble of all could not be lacking to it. And so I understood that the church had a heart, and that this heart was burning with love. I understood it was love alone that made the church's member act, that if love ever became extinct, apostles would not preach the gospel, and martyrs would not shed their blood. I understood that love comprised all vocations, that love was everything, that it embraced all times and places. In a word, that it was eternal. Then, in the excess of my delirious joy, I cried out, "O Jesus, my love, my vocation, at last I have found it. My vocation is love. Yes, I have found my place in the church, and it is you, O my God, who have given me this place. In the heart of the church, my mother, I shall be love. Thus I shall be everything, and thus my dream will be realized." This heart was not that of a triumphalistic church, but of a loving, humble, and merciful church. Therese never set herself above others, but took the lowest place together with the Son of God, who for our sake became a slave and humbled himself, becoming obedient even to death on a cross. Philippians 2, 7-8. This discovery of the heart of the church is also a great source of light for us today. It preserves us from being scandalized by the limitations and weaknesses of the ecclesiastical institution with its shadows and sins, and enables us to enter into the church's heart, burning with love, which burst into flame at Pentecost thanks to the gift of the Holy Spirit. It is that heart whose fire is rekindled with each of our acts of charity. I shall be love. This was the radical option of Therese, her definitive synthesis and her deepest spiritual identity. A shower of roses. After centuries in which countless saints expressed with great fervor and eloquence their desire to go to heaven, Saint Therese could acknowledge with utter sincerity, "At the time I was having great interior trials of all kinds, even to the point of asking myself whether heaven really existed." At another time she said, "When I sing of the happiness of heaven and of the eternal possession of God, I feel no joy in this, for I sing simply what I want to believe." What had happened? Therese was hearing God's call to put fire into the heart of the church more than to think of her own personal happiness. The transformation that was taking place enabled her to pass from a fervent desire for heaven to a constant burning desire for the good of all, culminating in her dream of continuing in heaven her mission of loving Jesus and making him loved. As she wrote in one of her last letters, "I really count on not remaining inactive in heaven. My desire is to work still for the church and for souls." And in those very days, she said, even more directly, "My heaven will be spent on earth until the end of the world. Yes, I want to spend my heaven in doing good on earth." In those words, Therese expressed her most assured response to the singular gift that the Lord was granting her, the remarkable light that God was shedding upon her. In this way, she arrived at her ultimate personal synthesis of the gospel, one that began with complete trust and ended in total abandonment for the sake of others. She had no doubt about the fruitfulness of that abandonment. I think of all the good that I would like to do after my death. God would not have given me the desire of doing good on earth after my death if He didn't will to realize it. It will be like a shower of roses. She had come full circle. C'est la confiance. It is trust that brings us to love and thus sets us free from fear. It is trust that helps us to stop looking to ourselves and enables us to put into God's hands what He alone can accomplish. Doing so provides us with an immense source of love and energy for seeking the good of our brothers and sisters. And so, amid the suffering of her last days, Therese was able to say, I count only on love. In the end, only love counts. Trust makes roses blossom and pours them forth as an overflow of the superabundance of God's love. Let us ask then for such trust as a free and precious gift of grace, so that the paths of the gospel may open up in our lives.